Hello and welcome to The United Stand. This is your Manchester United transfer news daily where we talk about all the latest Manchester United transfer news and give it that real fan opinion. And I tell you what, did you feel like yesterday the transfer window actually did open? A week after it officially did. It was just... That's what a transfer window is all about. Di Marzio giving us something, giving us quite a lot. A few other people coming out with things as well. It just seemed to be all over the place. Absolutely amazing. And to those people who send us messages through Twitter and that, thanks, because it's impossible to keep up to speed with everything. And the Fred thing, the Milinkovic-Savic, we've got the videos from last night for that if you want to watch those. But we fly into this and let's start with Sandro, who amazingly yesterday really didn't, unless you kept your eyes on things, didn't really get mentioned. And some people are now feeling we're not going to get Sandro. He's not been mentioned by Di Marzio and he's in Italy. And I suppose that is quite a good point. Di Marzio didn't mention him and he did mention Juventus because of Darmian and Mandzukic, and he didn't mention Sandro. But what I would say about that is Juventus actually did say something yesterday about this, that they're going to have talks with Sandro next week. Now, they had talks with Paul Pogba. Jorginho is having talks with Napoli next week. It doesn't mean he's not going to come to Manchester United. This was the deal that and I'd even been told that was going to happen. But remember the retainer to that, Luke Shaw. Manchester United are going to be very careful around the Luke Shaw situation. Announcing Sandro when they've still got Luke Shaw is a dangerous political situation for United. And as I'll keep saying, a lot of deals don't just happen today. Oh, let's go and see if we can get this player. Let's see if we can go and get that. They've been rumbling on for months. Sandro's not had a great season at Juventus. He clearly wants to move. Juventus will want to cash in on him because it's now is going to be his peak time. And United need a left back. I still think it's going to happen. Nothing is certain in the transfer window. It's just yesterday he wasn't mentioned, and I would hold it at that. I do think Sandro will come to Manchester United still. And he is the number one left back if we're going to move on Luke Shaw. If. Douglas Costa, what is it with United and Brazilians? Jose Mourinho makes that comment about wanting Brazilians, and I think the press just go, let's link Manchester United to every single Brazilian there is there. Obviously, it looks like Fred's coming. Sandro was also Brazilian and still is. Talisca, Brazilian, and now Douglas Costa, Brazilian. £79 million bid from Manchester United. Two things about this. One, I think it's just because he's Brazilian. Two, I think Juventus have actually got first refusal because he's on loan from Bayern Munich. So do Juventus still want him or not? Because if they do, they'll get him. And I'll add a third in as well. He's not worth 80 million quid. So Douglas Costa, I think, is 27, 28 now. I've always really liked him. I think he's a very, very good player. And if anybody remembers the Spurs-Juventus games, there were glimpses in there that were just sensational. But the vast majority of that game, he was quite quiet. And that's the problem with Douglas Costa. On his game, on his day, he's unplayable. But he is quite inconsistent. Like many wingers of the past, Nani was a really good winger we had at Manchester United. And on his day, unplayable, but a little bit inconsistent. And I'd liken Douglas Costa to him. I don't think we're in for him. I don't think we're in for him at all. I do like him. If we'd bought him, I'd be quite positive about it. But I really do think it's just the Brazilian link. Let's link every Brazilian to United. And he's not worth 80 million. I don't think United would pay that for him. But having said that, if Anthony Martial was to leave, then Costa, I probably would take him over Willian because he's younger and I think he's better on his day. But Willian, well, everyone goes on about Willian just very quickly. Oh, Willian's brilliant. Willian. But Willian's not actually been picked by Chelsea that much this season. So you can't say he's consistent. You can't because he's not been playing. It's not his fault. But just on wingers as well. Very interesting developments yesterday. Justin Kluivert. United have been linked to him for a long time. Obviously, Jose Mourinho, after the Europa League final, was on the pitch talking to him, and everyone thought that ultimately means he'll come to Manchester United. I've always said I can't see how we're going to sign a player like that. He's in his teens. Mourinho is struggling to develop Rashford and Martial, who are way further along the development path than Kluivert. Why would Mourinho, who apparently has only got 1 year to sort it out, and I agree with that, why would he go and buy a teenager who he really can't give any game time to because he's got to improve on second place next season, so he needs results now? It just was never going to happen, I don't think. I think also because his agent's Mino Raiola. But we've got Tahith Chong, who's actually quite close to Kluivert in age. And I can't see Chong getting opportunities, and he's come from the youth setup. So Kluivert, I could never see it happening. Apparently he's going to sign for Roma, long story short. Fabian Ruiz, people may not have heard of, and I've been holding back on doing mentioning him in the transfer show for a few days because I wanted to sort of He's one. There are a few names that we've always got on the back burner that if it's a bit of a quieter show, we can throw it in. And today's not a quieter show. It's just that I think he's worthy bringing in, and he's made his name onto the three. I mean, we do talk about people who aren't on the three, as you know, like Kluivert there. So Ruiz, welcome to the headlines. Fabian Ruiz plays for Real Betis, 22 years of age, 6'2". Straight away into the Jose Mourinho category because he's over 6 foot. Although we're going to ruin that with Fred, which is why I'm very excited about the Fred signing, simply because he's a midfielder under 6 foot, and I've been crying out for that for so long. We can't be this one dynamic team where if you're not over 6'2", you can't be signed. Anyway, Fabian Ruiz is 6'2". He's left-footed. He's being sort of tracked by Real Madrid and Barcelona. But he's been likened as, and this is apparently Mourinho's calling him the next Kaka. Well, I've never heard Mourinho speak about any player that he hasn't bought. But Manchester United apparently want him and he's available for 25 million. Well, Mourinho apparently wants him and he's available for 25 million. And there was some story last week that United were reluctant to back Mourinho on this deal. And I can't remember what it was. I think it was something to do with because this player's quite young, the Magic 22, and people under Mourinho haven't done that well at that age. But he looks good. He looks good. He's creative. He's more of an attacking midfielder. To be honest with you, I'd sort of liken him to a Talisca sort of player, really. More of an attacking midfielder. Does a lot of damage in that sort of final third, but he's quick on the ball and he's quite tall. I'm not going to put my hands up and say I've watched loads of him because I definitely don't watch many Real Betis games. I don't think I've watched them at all this season, actually, and I'll put my hands up to that. But from what I've heard about him and what I've read about him, I avoid YouTube clips. But there are ones out there. He looks okay. That's the sort of signing United should be making, to be honest. That's the sort of signing that Sir Alex would have made. A player like that from a club that's a little bit left field. I mean, we bought somebody called Cristiano Ronaldo from Sporting Lisbon. So it's the sort of signing we should be doing. I mention it. I don't think it will happen, but it's worth mentioning because it is hanging around Manchester United quite a lot at the moment. So it's definitely well worth a mention. But yeah, I mean, just going back to the start, Sandro, I think it can happen. I want it to happen. And I wouldn't be too worried that Di Marzio didn't mention it. Di Marzio has been wrong in the past. He's been very right, and he's sort of the governor when it comes to Manchester United transfer news. And his announcement yesterday that the Fred deal's done, we want Mandzukic, and Darmian's going to go to Juventus, and the interest in Milinkovic-Savic. A lot of people are getting worried about Milinkovic. I mean, watch the video from last night about Milinkovic-Savic. But I quite like my theory there last night mentioned. I quite like that as well. But just because Di Marzio doesn't mention Sandro doesn't mean anything, does it? He could have said United aren't in for Sandro as much as he could have said we are. So I wouldn't read too much into that. If United are signing a left back, then he's got to be top of the list, and he wants to move away from Juventus. So I'm quite confident that if we go for a left back, as I've always said, and this is what I've been told 2 weeks ago and at the start of this week, it's all dependent on Luke Shaw. If Luke Shaw leaves United, Sandro's on. If Luke Shaw stays at United, they probably won't go for a left back. But I think Luke Shaw will move on because I think he's had enough of Mourinho. I think that will happen, and then that will facilitate us going for Alexandro. But yeah, that would be the one I'd go for. Anyway, you should see him coming up on the left-hand side of the screen any moment. Fred video from yesterday and Milinkovic-Savic if you want to talk or discuss those. But get commenting below, give us your thoughts on everyone we've discussed today. Drop a like on the video, and we'll see what today brings. Yesterday was amazing. I'll guarantee this is going to be the roller coaster now. It's going to start. Thanks for watching. I'll speak to you later.